Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the United Way for a bit of a different show, better show, but different. Joining us today is Manchester United correspondent Jamie Jackson. Jamie, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. You okay?
Yeah, all good. United doing well as always, which is, I mean, you can't ask for anything more, can you? I mean, United doing well.
True. As someone who reports on them and City, I like to see both my teams do well because it just makes for happier clubs, to be honest.
Yeah, well, might meet each other in the final, in the FA Cup final, if things go well.
True.
Which would be definitely some final. But hopefully the red team wins.
We were discussing this yesterday after the game at Old Trafford. They've never actually met in a major final, City and United, which in some ways is surprising, but in other ways isn't, because City have only been sort of consistently good the last, whatever it is, 10, 11 years, whereas United, 50, 60, 70 years. But yeah, I mean, you've got Fulham now, haven't you, United, in the next round, but again at home. So, listen, he's got them going, Marco Silva, hasn't he, Fulham? But I'd be surprised. Being there last night, once he put Casemiro on, it was half-time, wasn't it? I just thought I'd be surprised if they don't win. And that's basically one of the tributes you can give this United team. You could, because of what Ten Hag's done, you almost not expect, but you're not surprised if they come back and sort of do a job on a side.
Yeah, I mean, without Casemiro, like that midfield just gets walked all over. Let's be real. And like we've seen it when he got suspended, which obviously a lot of United fans weren't happy because he got suspended. But he kind of, there was a fight. I think it was against the Barcelona game last week. There was a bit of a fight, and he just thought, "Listen, I'm not going nowhere near that fight because I don't want to be out."
What was interesting though was, I'm pretty sure I got this right. The 3 games that he was suspended, I think you got sort of. I still think you won 2 of the games, but you're right. I mean, since basically Carrick signed, right, in 2006, right. I know Scholes was already there, but you hadn't signed. United had not signed a proper midfielder since then until Casemiro turns up, which is what 16 years later. I mean, as I said, I know Scholes was at his peak at the time, but you understand what I mean? It's still a long time. They tried it, obviously, Pogba, but you had Sneijder in there. You had Schweinsteiger, who was a great player, but he was past it. I could go on. And it's not rocket science, is it, really? Football is basically a midfield game, really. I know you've got to score goals, but it's kind of won or lost in the midfield.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we needed a midfielder for a long, long time. Like, we were crying out for him. Like, with Ollie, we were like, get a midfielder. Didn't get a midfielder. Same, like, Mourinho didn't do too bad, but like a midfielder like Casemiro is what we needed. I know we wanted Frankie de Jong, but I'm sure, to be honest with you, after last week's game where Bruno nearly killed them with the football, I don't think he'd be getting it, but you never know. But listen, if we get him, we get him. But I mean, Michael, how was you?
Yeah, I'm good.
That's good.
I'm
That's
excited.
good.
The club, Manchester United's our performances these days, it's giving us a lot of, positive vibes and, positives to look ahead. So I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying the moment.
That's it. Enjoy it while it lasts. I mean, I know Liverpool aren't doing well. They're not doing too bad, Liverpool, but it's nice to slag them and not actually get bantered for once. Because last season, my God, I couldn't even go out. I know it's Ireland, but even when I couldn't even go out because I was getting bantered.
Sure.
But I mean, Jamie, obviously, since it's your first time on, like, what got you in, or what made you want to be like a Manchester United correspondent?
Well, as I say, I'm Manchester football correspondent, so I cover both clubs.
Okay.
I started off as a general sports writer for our Sunday paper, The Observer, and that was back in 2002. So I've been going 21 years. Well, I mean, I always wanted to, be a writer. I am a writer, and then I did a master's in journalism, and on the master's, you had to do work experience. And at that point, I chose The Observer. I'll very quickly tell you how I got my break onto a national paper. So I went there to The Observer, which is a Sunday paper. The Guardian owns it. This is back in 2002. And basically, Arsenal were going to play Juventus, right, in the Champions League the following Tuesday. And they wanted to do a story about the last time they played Juventus, which was 1980. It was a Cup Winners' Cup semi-final, and a young player came on for Arsenal, scored the winner. He was called Paul Vasson. He was 19, right? Scored this winner, knocked Juventus out. And it's a bit of a sort of, fairy tale story, the substitute, the young lad. But anyway, by the age of 21, he was finished. Yeah, he was no longer a footballer. Where I came in was he sadly died the previous August. since August 2001. He was 39, and no one knew what had happened, what the story was, because they were playing him again for the first time since that, since that game in 1980 when he scored the goal. They just asked me on the off chance, because none of their journalists could find any information, if I could find anything out. And I dug up this whole story. It was very sad. So by the Sunday, when we came out, the Observer, remember, I'm there on work experience, right? I mean, it's my second week. By the Sunday, it was in the centre pages of the sports supplement, which is still there, the pull-out, by the chief sports writer, a gentleman called Kevin Mitchell, and me, Jamie Jackson. And that basically got my break, because on the basis of my ability to sort of dig up that story, the sports editor then started paying me, I think it was £200 a week for research, and anything on top of that, but if it went in the paper. And I was still doing my master's, remember, because I was there on work experience for this master's degree, but I was managing to juggle both, and I just took it from there. 2 years later, I got my first contract, and then I got this job the season, halfway through the season, that Mancini won the first title for City. So what's that, 11 years ago? But I always say, if you report on Manchester United, it's probably the best job in football reporting. And I'm lucky enough to be at the Guardian, which is, would be my paper of choice. I'm very, very lucky. And the reason why I say about Manchester United is kind of the obvious reasons, really. It is massive. It is global. It's kind of like the Beatles of football. There's always something going on. I know your fans. By the way, I'm not a fan. I'm a lapsed Forest fan. But I know for fans, you want the team to win. Of course you do. But from my point of view, I do as well. But because it's Manchester United, if you're not winning, it's interesting as well. You understand what I mean? Everyone's a bit of you almost say it's a bit of a national soap opera. Even non-football fans or sporting fans have a view, or sort of know a little bit about Manchester United. That's the beauty of the club. And I'll tell you another thing. At doing this job 11 years, it's a really nice club. There's some really nice people there. It is actually. I was really pleased with them on Sunday. I was at the final, obviously, when you beat Newcastle. I was pleased with the people I know who work there. Who I see sort of most days when I go in, which is obviously 2 or 3 times a week, because it is like a family club. They're nice people. So when you boil it down, I know it's commercial, I know it's massive, and all the rest of it. But when you boil it down, it's human beings. It's human beings who sort of care about their club. There's a lot of staff going there as fans on the Sunday. They work there, but they're also fans. And it was just nice to see how pleased they all genuinely. Strip back all the money, all the glamour, and at heart, it's a football club. Just like a Sunday league club, but it's absolutely massive. Do you know what I mean? It's that it's still got that thing about it, and that's nice, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've been at a few United games, and everyone just turns into like the strangers beside you, and before you know it, you're our best friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. But so my son, who's called Sonny, is a United fan, right? And I took him. I should have been doing the game, but I took the day off. It was Bournemouth. You might remember this game. It was going to be the last game of the season, so about 7 years ago. So my son was only he was 4. It might even have only been 3. Right, it was a little tiny baby. Anyway, if you remember this game, it was the one that got called off because it was a bomb scare. Right?
Oh yeah.
I'm sat sort of opposite the Stretford end, right? Yeah, behind the goal, up there with this. My son, this little not a baby, but he's a tiny boy. Anyway, that happened, right? So we couldn't watch it. Obviously, I wasn't going to tell him it's a bomb scare. I just said, they think there's some sort of structural problem, like safety thing. Anyway, just to pick up your point, because I was there with this basically tiny little boy, all the fans there. Remember, I'm not a United fan, but he is. But obviously, I'm a fan of football. But they were just really friendly. They're like, you go out first, and I got that sense. And I also took him away to. It was Mourinho's first game at Wigan, a friendly. I don't know if you remember that game. It was in the summer, obviously, when Mourinho took over. It was at Wigan, and I took him there. And we sat in the way end, and because it's United, they gave us all, instead of behind the goal, they gave also the people there sort of one stand. And it was great. It was great for him because he's sort of seeing that thing. And, as I said, I'm a lapsed Forest fan, right? But I was never a massive watcher of them. When I was a kid. I mean, live. I mean, going to watch them because of family circumstance. So I've never really experienced that with my team. But when I take him or when his mum takes him, they always say, yeah, what you said. And that's a nice thing about football, isn't it?
Yeah. No, it is. It is. And I mean, especially you mentioned about the final on Sunday, I know it's the Carabao Cup. You could even see there was a lot of emotion. There was players crying, fans crying. I was doing a watch along, and I was someone was asking in the comments, "Are you crying?" I was like, "No." I know it's only the Carabao Cup, but
it doesn't matter. It's
let's
winning.
Be honest. We've been through, my God, last season was probably United's, its ever lowest point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, sorry to interrupt, but listen, I understand what you say, but I wouldn't be. personally, I don't think it's only the Carabao Cup. You are a proper football club. You want to win everything, right? You've had it difficult. Last season was a bit shambolic, if you don't mind me saying. You know, he walked into Ten Hag walked into a mess, right? But look at what he's done, and that's kind of what makes it sweeter. And it just goes to show a bit like the point I was saying about the midfielder. And again, it's not rocket science. If you get the right manager in, listen, there's not many of them around, but if you get a genius manager in, which he's starting to prove he might be, Ten Hag, wow, doesn't it make a big difference? Yeah. It is the thing you need. You know what I mean? I don't, you know, it's like Klopp at Liverpool, or you know, you can make Ancelotti, you know, you get the right person in, and it's just like a sort of like a magician almost. And that's another thing. That's what's been wrong with the club. They've recruited the wrong managers until him. And obviously, because it then comes with managers, kind of the wrong players, really. Apart from Fernandez, it's difficult, really. Luke Shaw, you know, that was a good signing. But apart, you know what I mean? There's not been many.
Yeah. I mean, Ten Hag is a bit of a liar because he turns around and says, "I'm not a magician. I can't do magic." And I mean,
I think he's a magician. He's a magician, actually.
Yeah,
he's been modest there, mate. Maybe Michael, isn't it? You know, he's sort of saying that. You know, but the evidence speaks for itself. I mean,
yeah, true.
You know, the way Rashford, for example, is playing. You know, it's just great, isn't it? You know, last week, Rannick actually said. And to be fair to him, it was on the back of reports. He was sort of really caught out, but he did sort of say if he wants to leave, if him and his representatives want him to leave in the summer, so that was last summer, then he can. And you're thinking, well, maybe it is time. But he was a sort of, victim's a bit strong, but Rashford is a kind of symptom of the mess, you know, the sort of, the mess United were in. But you get this guy in, and I mean, you know, if you can get a proper striker who can stay fit this summer, and maybe De Jong actually as well, or you know, someone to complement Casemiro and Erik, maybe Declan Rice. My choice would be Declan Rice and Harry Kane, right? But you can now say those two names, right, and think it's realistic with regard to how attractive a club is to join again now because of Ten Hag, right? You might not get them both or even one, but you understand what I mean? It's if you're Kane or Rice or De Jong. I mean, De Jong must be thinking, why didn't I join? He must be, you know, he must be. And that's great, right, from your point of view. So, you know, it is happy days.
I mean, was it the other day? I seen on Twitter, it was either Anthony or Martinez. They literally went into the Ajax and literally said, you know, I want to play for Manchester United. Like, and that's good to see because last season, Jamie, like, not being bad, but I didn't even want to watch Man United last season. We were that poor. Like, you know what I mean?
My son, as I say, is a proper United fan. I get tickets all the time. He's now 11. And he would watch them last year, but he was like, I tell you what, actually, what you're saying there was actually, you know, a lot of fans had become disaffected. So it was actually worse than being cheesed off or, you know, at least when you're cheesed off or you're upset, you've got feelings about it still, right? But a lot of fans were saying, oh, I've gone a bit numb here. And that's actually the worst, right? Because you don't care even. You do care, but, you know, you sort of so like, and that was because of the lack of, you know, winning solves everything, of course. If you're not winning, then suddenly people will look at what are perceived as positives. Now, like say that Ten Hag, you know, he met Sir Alex the other day, last week, was it? You know, for a dinner. Well, under Solskjaer, you know, because there's many times when he was going up and down, you know, you would do a story that, oh, he's seen with Sir Alex, he's talked to Sir Alex. Then that would be framed as, oh, what's he got reaching back into the past for? You know, it's all a little bit sort of retrograde. He hasn't got his own ideas. And because the team weren't doing very well, because the team are winning now, then obviously the Ferguson thing, as an example, is like, yeah, why would he not tap into this, you know, this actual real genius manager who's still there and still loves the club? So, you know, it's all about that, really. But of course, how do you win? You'd be a very good manager and make sure you do. So, you know, it is interesting. I've covered them, as I say, from the first, halfway through the Mancini league season. So that's 11 years. This is my third book now that I've got out on United. So I did a book on the Moyes thing and Van Gaal called A Season in the Red. Yeah, all about how Moyes couldn't handle it and Van Gaal comes in. And I did the biography of Solskjaer. And for the first time, because I've started to think maybe I'm the kiss of death, because that's since I started doing the job, you'd only won the title once, you know, Ferguson's last season. But it's now really nice to see an upswing. And having been here for that whole time, you know, you sort of get a real sense of what's going on inside the club, why things have gone wrong, and now maybe why things are going right. So listen, they could lose 25-0 at Liverpool on Sunday. I don't think they win. I don't think they will. I think you probably win. You know, but I think overall there is a really positive thing there now.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember the last time where United were going to Anfield where I thought, I'm confident. I'm confident.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love if we could do what Real Madrid did to them and beat them 5-2, but I don't think so. I mean, one thing about Man United and Liverpool, obviously, except for last season, but it doesn't matter where teams are. This game, like, both teams are going to just give it their all. Because let's be honest, let's throw it out there. Both fans hate each other. Like, there's no love between Man United and Liverpool. Like, we can say that for a fact. I mean, speaking of books, Jamie, well, you're not the kiss of death. You have a new book out, is that right?
I do, yeah. It's called Because They Can Effing Play Good Football, which is actually a direct quote from Ten Hag. Do you know when he said this? Are you aware when
after the Liverpool game?
Yes, it was. Well done. You just beat banked 4-0 at Brentford and also lost 2-1 at home to Brighton the first two games. And then he does that. This is Ten Hag, manages to beat Liverpool. And he was asked, and that was his answer. And it is a really good quote, and it's a really good title. And it's basically, just an account of the season. I've been writing it as the season's going on. It's on something called Substack, which people might not have heard of. It's just basically a website for writers. It's like, it's a subscription model, but the first week is free. So the first chapters are free. Then it's serialized weekly for $4.99 a month from sort of now until the end of April. Yes, that you get weekly chapters. And then from May, which is obviously the last sort of few weeks of the season, the book will be written last, if you like. So, whatever happened yesterday, I will write a chapter on, and that will then be published until the end of the season. It's gone down well. And it's nice to write a book about a success story, because that was the other thing. Obviously, I'm writing this and I'm thinking, what's going to happen here? This is at the start of the season, but you win on Sunday and already it's a good season, right? You've ended a 6-year trophy drought. You're almost definitely going to get Champions League, and who knows what's going to happen. So it's so refreshing. It's going down well. So it's on my Substack. But but going back to the Solskjaer biography, I was writing that as he was in the job, and people knew about it, and you get varied reactions. It'd be like either say United had lost or stunk out the place. Somehow it'd be some people, on Twitter, it'd be my fault because I'm writing this book about him, or other people would be like, well, he's going to get sacked. He's going to get sacked. And it was a little bit, you don't want to be writing a book about someone who's lost their job before the book comes out, right? Who wants to read that, really, to be honest? And that didn't happen, luckily enough. But this is like, sort of a nicer feeling. But through having done all these books, I've done basic books on each of your managers. And Ten Hag, if you count caretaker managers and permanent manager, and obviously Solskjaer was twice, both, sorry, he was a caretaker, but he's now the 9th appointment since Ferguson left. So that's basically more or less one a year. And that just shows how difficult it's been to get the right person in.
Yeah. I mean, I reckon if you did a book when Fergie was manager, you could have been a millionaire.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and you sort of, it's interesting because Ferguson, on the cover of the one about Moyes, it was called A Season Red, but because of the shadow Ferguson, because of the shadow Ferguson had over the club, the cover was a picture of him at the top, then Moyes, and then Van Gaal. But usually you'd have the subject, which was kind of Moyes, really, at the top, because Ferguson's such a big deal. And so, like you say, I mean, there's umpteen books on his time there. And I always, whenever Ferguson comes up, I always have to say this. I still think what he actually did is difficult to actually understand how good he was, because 13 Premier League titles is an absolute joke. Think about that. That is just like hilariously good. And then you got all the rest of it. What he did, built 4 or 5 brilliant teams. It's something that's an absolute phenomenon. And he is basically a genius.
I mean, Michael, you probably agree with me, and it's probably going to be a bit biased, but like he literally, like no manager is near Fergie. No one's going to do what Fergie's done. Like absolutely. They're talking about.
I was thinking, with the rate at which, the pace at which Erik ten Hag is going right now, if he keeps this momentum, if he keeps this winning attitude and ability, he could as well. We never know what could happen in the future. He could match. I know it will be pretty difficult, to get up to 13 Premier League titles, but with what we are seeing right now from Erik ten Hag, we never know. Anything can happen. He could be the second best manager in Manchester United ever had. So it's very possible. You come into this,
exactly.
You come into the club. Yeah, you come into the club the first season. You're winning the Carabao Cup. Of course, we're still in forefront. There's still the possibility of getting at least the treble, because you look at the Europa League, you beat Barcelona, you made a very huge statement of yourself as a football club. So if we beat Barcelona, we can go all out to win the Europa League. You look at the FA Cup, we're still in the FA Cup. We're still the favorites. Obviously, City, by their standards, they are not having their best seasons, truth be told. So obviously, we can actually beat Man City if peradventure we meet in the final. So it's just the Premier League. Obviously, we know Arsenal, they are in the best of their forms right now, which we know it can be pretty difficult when you want to talk about the quadruple. But to be fair, I think it's decent enough for us to say we can get the treble, which is very, very possible. So I believe so. I don't know if any of you guys believe we can actually get the treble.
Quadruple, no, because I don't think we're going to win the Premier League. I'd love to be sitting here in May saying Premier League champions, Europa League champions, FA Cup champions, but I don't think so. Europa League and FA Cup, but there's a chance. Like, I think we're the favourites.
Yeah, we're the favourites. Truth be told, so, yes.
But I mean, I don't know. Hopefully, just better things to come from Ten Hag. Like, this is only his fourth season as well. Like, I think most United fans said a trophy on top four in Ten Hag's fourth season would be great. Maybe get more than a trophy. I mean, Jamie, as you said, you were at Old Trafford last night. Like, I reckon, like, because we went 1-0 down, I reckon Old Trafford just literally, the atmosphere just went from 1 to 100 in seconds. Like,
yeah, I mean, I think Roy Keane actually said on TV afterwards that, and he's, obviously talking about his time really until now, that he's seen it lots of times, teams coming to Old Trafford getting a bit of possession, but then actually getting beaten up. I think he used the words beaten up, but it's something close to that. And that actually is kind of what this Ten Hag United do now. They might go behind, they might struggle here and there, but then they're so ruthless. Fernandes was a top player crying out for other top players around him, and now he's got it. You know what I mean? Before, the only other sort of players I really rated before sort of recently would be like Luke Shaw. I thought had the mentality because he came through that whole Mourinho thing, right, where he was just basically slating him sort of quite a lot. De Gea, because he'd won a title, and possibly Rashford, but now he's got Casemiro. Is just like some sort of, you can go over the top a little bit, but I don't think you can. We're praising generally, football. But I don't think you can with Casemiro because he comes on and he's just a different thing. He's just class, like a different level. And so, yeah, they ended up getting beaten up, West Ham, didn't they? Towards the end, there's an own goal. Garnacho's 18, and he's done that before this season. I think he scored a late winner at Fulham, for example, just before the World Cup. When he gets that ball, I wasn't surprised what he did. I'm actually where I'm sitting. It's sort of in my eye. I've got like a view behind his foot, if you like, as he curls it in. And I'm thinking this is going in this. And then Fred. There's a stat going around Twitter, which I'm not that sort of bothered about, but he scored as many goals as Chelsea has. This is Fred, which is 6 since I don't know, is it November or something? I mean, Chelsea are in salt, but see, there you go. Imagine Ten Hag at Chelsea with all the players they bought. It'd be a different team, wouldn't it? It just shows the manager. Yeah. Manager has to be the X factor. And I always say, I understand why clubs like City and United have like a director of football, but I'm telling you now, right? The director of football has to be there only to facilitate the manager. The manager is a real director of football if he's good, because he has to control the whole thing. It's his players that he's putting out on the field. He lives or dies by them. So he has to be able to choose them. Do you know what I'm getting at? Ferguson was the whole club, including the director of football. Guardiola has a guy called Cheeky Begiristain, right? He's a sporting director, is his title, but he's the director of football. But, he doesn't sign anyone unless Guardiola says, yes, please. So the director of football are there to basically facilitate, the manager. And in Ten Hag, that's basically, what you've got. You've got a sort of a guy who just, Weghorst looks a very good footballer. Forget about the fact that he's only scored one goal. Look, yesterday he was dropping off the top, his touches, passes through. Look at the goal he created for Rashford, in the final that was ended up being awarded. He takes it. It's like a 1-2 with Rashford, actually. Rashford gives it to him near halfway. He runs forward, slips him it. That is good for that. That's proper football. But what I'm trying to say is he was looked upon as a bit of you should have got a proper striker in January. You couldn't afford it. You couldn't afford Gakpo, right? You get this guy in, a Burnley reject, right? He's on loan at Besiktas, I think it is, or was, but not anymore. He's a Manchester United winner. So that's a good signing. Bayern Munich player who's played loads of champions. That's a good signing on loan. Ten Hag's smart. He's a smart cookie.
I mean, I guess I got to the stage with Ten Hag where, whatever team he picks, I can't turn around and go mad about it because he'll prove me wrong, which obviously I like him proving me wrong.
Of course.
I mean, a lot of fans are starting to really like Wakehurst. I mean, last night, I thought obviously the own goal was because obviously at the time I thought Wakehurst had their scoring from a corner. Obviously, it was an own goal.
Yeah,
he was nowhere. Wouldn't say he was nowhere near it, but there wasn't a chance he was getting to it. Ariola probably would have punched it, but he claimed it. I don't know why, but he thought, let's claim this. But I mean, even when he plays in the 10 position, he does reasonably good there as well. I know, he's not Harry Kane or Haaland or Nunez, but he'll do the job until the summer.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if, I'm not saying this will happen, I have no info, but put it away. I don't think now it would be too ridiculous if he actually signed him, Weghorst, as a squad player, because he,
especially the way Martial is, he's always out.
And what I mean is, as a striker, but actually as he can play as a de facto number 2. He's not just Peter Crouch basically was a sort of very tall striker, but he didn't really play anywhere else. Whereas this guy can play in a sort of creative off the front. So I'm saying I think he looks like a very useful squad player who is now part of a trophy-winning team who started that game and created the second goal. You know what I mean? He's proved it when you need to. So what you're thinking? Wait a minute. Why would he not consider it anyway? I'm not saying he would do, but he won't cost particularly much. And I mean, you two are the fans. What would you say about that if he was signed permanently? Would you would that be fine? I'm not saying I'm not saying as the answer. I'm saying as a player.
I mean, Michael, do you want to start off first?
Yeah. I think Weghorst, to be fair, I think there's something he brings into the club or into the team actually. And if you look at Anthony Martial, for instance, obviously all round Martial is kind of better because you look at the way Martial is. He's more technical with the ball. He holds the ball very well and he keeps the ball very well and he takes on defenders. But the deficiency or what I think Martial has is the injury proneness. So Weghorst coming into the team right now, I think he has perfectly, fitting into the style, into the system Erik ten Hag wants. Fine, we all know what he's a number 9. He's a goal scorer. Obviously, we want to see him scoring goals week in, week out. But you look at the system. Of course, Manchester United is still a work in progress. The process is still in progress. But with what Weghorst is offering to the team right now, I think it's commendable. He holds up play. He presses. He comes deep down, the middle of the park to help his teammates. To ease off the pressure from the players, from the midfielders, which obviously is something that is productive. Most fans are quick to judge because they expect goals. They compare him with Harry Kane, they compare him with Victor Osimhen. But the truth is, as a striker, there are more to a striker. There are more attributes to a striker, and that's goal scoring. Weghorst is not actually giving it now. But you look at the other aspects at which he, look at the game against West Ham yesterday, involved in 3 goals. He presses. He was able to, you bring defenders to yourself in order to create space for your teammates, which was actually what he did. And in time, obviously, Weghorst will definitely improve. This is just not the end of the season. We'll see more from Weghorst, and Erik ten Hag trusting him to start. He tells he brings something special. As a player, as a striker, you are bringing defenders onto yourself and creating that space for your teammates to move or to strike. Definitely a true ball can come in. We saw something similar to I think he made a true ball to Marcus Rashford, but I think Rashford was unfortunate not to score that ball. And we saw the Fred goal, for instance, the aspect of pressing, because as a striker, as a modern striker, you need to press. You don't just have to sit back to wait for. You don't just have to sit back and wait for the goal. And I think that's the difference when you compare Weghorst and Haaland. I think that's the part Haaland, for instance, need to work on in terms of his. You know, you need to work your work rate. You need to work for the ball. And I think that is what Weghorst is doing right now. He was able to press. Unfortunately for him, it worked out for him, and he was able to get that defender. He was able to get the ball off that defender, and obviously Fred did the finishing, which was perfect. So that's what you want to see from a striker. So Weghorst is decent, in my opinion. He's a decent loan bargain, and we should expect to see more from him. And that's goal aspect in terms of being clinical. It's not far-fetched. It's not far-fetched. If he continues like this, we'll see the goal delivery from him.
I mean, I think, again, Michael kind of summed it all up. But, I mean, I even seen him singing after the game, the final on Sunday, like, and you've, kind of kneeling down, looking up at the fans. It's kind of like you're thinking to himself, like, how did I get myself into this goal situation?
It's Ted Hag, isn't it? It's Ted Hag, see?
Exactly. Exactly. Like, he's even improved Wan-Bissaka. And I thought Wan-Bissaka's time United was done. And he came on against Newcastle on the weekend. It went from St. Maximin to St. Minimum. And that joke's been going around.
But exactly, because St. Maximin was getting at Dallo, wasn't he, with his pace?
Yes, exactly.
1%, he knew he could trust him. He brought him on half-time in the final. And you're right. I've not heard that one myself. That's a good one, St. Minimum. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, and Delors was on yellow card as well. So Delors was, we couldn't really do much. Like, Wan-Bissaka's tackles, like, I mean, even referee Zaha said it after the 1-1 draw. He was 2 on goal, and he turned around and seen Wan-Bissaka, and he thought, oh no, like anyone else, I was probably going to get the winner, but Wan-Bissaka, like, I did say we should sell him, but after now, I'm like, no, maybe we should keep him. Get rid of Delors and keep Wan-Bissaka.
I've never wanted Manchester United to sell him. It's just people complain about his defensive his attacking output. But trust me, he's not as bad as people think he is, because the best form of your attack is your defense. So how well you defend can actually propel your team to attack better. And Wan-Bissaka is not as awful as people think. Of course, he's the best, when it comes to one-on-one tackle. Wan-Bissaka is that kind of person. And
if you ask me who I would choose, it would be Wan-Bissaka, because I think there's more potential because he's got that pace, right? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think you're right. He's got a lot. In fact, didn't he create a goal with a volleyed cross, Wan-Bissaka, when he first came back in the team this season? I remember it. It was really the ball came over to him. He volleyed it in, and I can't remember who scored. It might have been Rashford, probably, because he's been scoring all season. But
I think it was Ericsson against
Burnley.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Ericsson. Yes.
Yeah. So I think you're right, Michael. I think he is better creatively, but defending, that pace is like, it's a little bit Kyle Walker at City. Him stroke defense out of a lot of trouble sometimes because the wheels on him, he's so fast.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I think after last season, every player was used to, like, we were getting, people wanted Haig on at some point. But listen, we're here for what many fans want. Probably want to talk about is the Glazers.
Yeah.
Jamie, any good news for us? Will the Glazers be gone by the summer, or will we have to live with them for another year?
Yeah, good question. Right, so what I know is, let's put it this way. You never know in football. I don't think it was, even though it was sort of, they'd like to sell by what they call in the financial terms, the end of Q1, which is the end of March, quarter one of the year. I don't really think, because of how football works, that was ever possible. So, do I think they'll be gone by the summer? I think there's a good chance, right? Because when is that? Well, depends what you mean by summer, but let's say the middle of summer, July or whatever, you know what I mean? Before the next season starts. I think at the moment it's still on. The Qatar interest is obviously official. They have got a lot of money. So put it another way around. If they're serious about it, they bought PSG. They bought, they organised the World Cup. Now, on the one hand, they're sort of saying it's a different interest in terms of the money. But let's say it is, and how can I say this? I'm not convinced it is at all. I think it's all the part of the same, because how that country is. It's basically all the emir. But this guy, this Sheikh Jassim, got a lot of money himself. His father owns Harrods, for example, and one of many things. He's a former prime minister, the father. So what I'm getting to say is, if you then compare him to Sir Jim Ratcliffe, who's obviously, you know, Ineos, got a heck of a lot of money, Britain's richest person. There still is. He makes Sir Jim look, let's say, not poor, but, you know, not rich. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I do. You never know, and there is this school of thought, and I think there is some truth in it. That there's a bit of, not division, but it's not like all the 6 of the Glazer siblings, you know, the brothers, and I think it's one sister, are 100%. You know, some of them are a bit indecisive, and it was interesting a little bit that Avram Glazer was there at Wembley. I mean, I'm not saying it's because he wants to necessarily not sell the club, but I do think, in a way, if you start winning again, which you are, that makes the club more attractive, right? Now, you could look at that 2 ways. Better price, of course, yeah. You know, we're winning. Look at Ten Hag. We've got a massive. You know, we've got probably the greatest asset at your club at the moment, without a shadow of doubt, is the manager, right? And you've got him in place, and he's only sort of 6, 7, 8 months in, right? So that's great, all great selling stuff. But on the other hand, you can look at the other way. Maybe they will. Oh, why would we want to sell right now? I got told a few years ago that your club could easily be a double-figure billion valued, you know, entity. So, you know, 10, 12, 15. It's not there at the moment. They want about 6. But if someone actually got hold of it, like the Qataris would do, I'd say. I mean, the human rights thing is a whole different issue, right? I don't particularly, and I'm being polite, think it's a nice place because of that, because how they treat whatever you want to call it. You know, they're not into diversity. You know what I mean. But anyway, that's there. But in terms of whether they would do a proper job on your club, like, you know, Old Trafford, the footprint of that area is massive. You could make that, right. You could keep the old Old Trafford maybe as sort of for, and, you know, do it up, but maybe as the women's stadium, right? Build another one onto it. And you still got like proper state of the art that would blow even Tottenham's out of the water. Then you could have theatres there, cinemas. You could have shops, lovely restaurants. You could make it a destination area, right? That's going to cost a lot of money, but they have a lot of money. You do that, you sort out the training ground. You know, that's the sort of thing that I would be sorry if they didn't do, because that's their style. I was at the World Cup, you know, I covered the World Cup for The Guardian, The Observer. And while it's a very strange country, and I certainly won't go there on holiday, I'll take my children there, etc., etc. You know, everything was very new and very nice. You know, the metro system ran like a dream. You know, everything was basically built for it. You know, they've got a lot of money. I think they're the second biggest holders of gas reserves in the world. I think maybe only Russia beats them. And then they've got a lot of oil as well. Just what I'm getting at. And there's all this rivalry as well within that area, that region of the world. You know, obviously Abu Dhabi own Manchester City. They don't particularly get on well with them. I don't think they get on particularly well with the Saudi Arabian, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, they wouldn't be doing this by half measures. And also, I think the fact that they declared interest, I'd be surprised if they suddenly went away. Why would they do that? They would have thought this through, right? So it's a bit of a roundabout way to answer your question. Yes, I do think possibly that they'll be gone by the summer. I'd be surprised if they're not at the moment. But the only thing I'm going to say, it's not a cop-out, is you just don't know in football. Things can change. It's like I sometimes go into colleges and sort of speak about reporting on transfers, right? And honestly, I can tell you, because I've been through it so many times, you can report a story, right, about player X going to player Y, going to club Y, and it'd be true when you report it. It could actually literally be untrue 5 minutes later. But it's not because you've, as a reporter, lied or got it wrong. It's just changed. The situation has changed. You know, 1 minute he's on his way to sign, next minute he gets a call from another club. That's why you've got to be careful reporting transfers. It's a little bit anything in football, but particularly this. But I do think at the moment, you know, I'd be surprised if the Glazers aren't gone by then. At the moment, that's what I'm going to say.
Well, for now, you probably give a few United fans a bit of hope.
Yes.
Just not often we have other. Well, we do, but not often do you care about the Glazers. But there's a question for you, Jamie, from Huddersfield Town Fan TV. Says there's been talk the Glazers still want to stick around with a bit of percentage stake. Is that true?
Well, that's one of the things. That's kind of what I was alluding to about the indecision. I mean, possibly, but what does that mean? I mean, I don't see the Qataris or, you know, the Sheikh coming in and saying, oh, yeah, okay, we only want to buy 35% or 40% or, you know, 65%. But even if that was the case, you know, if the Glazers end, I think individually, the sort of 6 of them, it's slightly varies, but I think it goes from like 18%, 15, 16, 17% each of these 6 siblings own. If you have one of them left over, owning 16%, it's absolutely immaterial to the actual who become the real, the real owners, if we could put it that way. So it wouldn't really matter in terms of their effectiveness, what they could actually impact. Yeah, they've got a bit of a say, but that it doesn't any big decision will have nothing to do with them. So, but I don't see that happening. I think it's all a bit of a bargaining thing. The sort of idea that they might hang around. How do you if if I want to sell my house and I know that you want to buy it, and I start saying, oh, I'm not too sure about this, and you want to, and you really want it. You go, well, how much do you actually Here's another 50 grand, isn't that's what I'm getting at? It's classic. Yeah. It's like, so I wouldn't be too concerned about that at the moment.
Yeah, one thing with the Glazers, they're very smart. Like, they're not stupid. And listen, I always said that, the Glazers aren't going to let the club go just like that. Do you know what I mean? They're going to make it hard work for, the other people who want to buy the club, like Qatar and Jim Ratcliffe and others. But, I mean, I take it the main favourite to buy the club, especially a few of the fans, some United fans kind of want them, are Qatar. Again, like what you said about, the human rights, some people are kind of like, okay, wouldn't be a big fan of that one. And listen, I agree with what you said there, Jamie, about Qatar, about the human rights and stuff like that. And even about the World Cup as well. A lot of people are kind of like, I don't really want the World Cup there, because...
Do you know what? What my experience of it was, the World Cup. So I was only there for the group stage, which, it was 2 weeks. Yeah. Well, how I was describing it to people, it was a country in need of people, because you would walk around and there'd be people around, but it'd be very empty. And the last game I did was Brazil's last game. Who did they play? It was Cameroon. It was a Friday night. It was the very last game of the group stage. Brazil, I think they ended up losing. Yeah, Brazil lost. Anyway, I'm walking up to the ground, the stadium, working, obviously, as I normally do, about 2 hours before. And you know what it's like at any football game, really. You walk up to the ground, it's a bit of a party, isn't it? That's the whole idea. It's fun. You walk up, it's dead. No one then. It's Brazil. That obviously, by the time the game starts, there's people in there. But you understand what I mean? It's sort of like very, very odd, sort of moribund atmosphere. There's no atmosphere there. I don't know how it came across on TV. When you got to the actual games, there would be a bit of atmosphere, but it wasn't the same.
I was actually, I actually noticed that, like, even the commentators were saying, like, the stadium wasn't really full. There's barely any atmosphere. Like, you can't, or like, they were literally, like, you've seen like a few tweets saying you get more atmosphere in the graveyard.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, I didn't see those, but I can understand where that's coming from. I mean, the next one's obviously in Canada, USA, and Mexico. That'll be a belter. That'll be a lot of fun, because the USA, the game is really taking off there. When I go there with United, I've been there with Van Gaal, Mourinho twice.
I think they're back there in the summer, aren't they?
Doing the tour. So I should be going there then as well. United are a big deal there, and that's because obviously what they call soccer is becoming more and more. So that will be a belter.
Yeah. I am looking for. Unfortunately, Ireland just don't compete in the World Cup, but hopefully the Euros. But I doubt that.
You might qualify, no?
For the Euros,
the World Cup. You might qualify one year.
I'd like to say yeah, but no. I don't.
You have to dream.
Again, you have to dream, but I don't know. I hope so.
If Ten Hag comes and manages Ireland, there you go.
Can you not manage both of them, no? Only if. I mean, imagine that Ireland-England World Cup final. It'll never happen. It's more England make it to a final, but Ireland.
You never know. Listen, you never know. Wales got to a Euro semi, right? So
Yeah, but in fairness, like we have a Welsh fan in the chat, who's part of the channel. We try not to say we try not to give Wales any credit, but they have Gareth Bale. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, who do we have that's good? Like Bene overfollow me. Like,
but that could change in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You just don't know. You just don't know.
And we have the Brighton striker, Evan Ferguson.
Yes, I did that day. I just spoke the other day. I wouldn't usually do a stop, and I saw it. He scored, obviously. The Brighton guy. What's he called? Evan Ferguson, is it?
Yeah.
I think he's 5-11 for Brighton this season. So yeah, there you go. You see, he's only 18.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully.
I always say it's free to dream. Remember that, it's free to dream.
Yeah, I mean, the manager Stephen Kenny I mean, I know this is totally off topic. This isn't even Man United, but you know, I don't know. I hope so. I mean, Michael's Nigerian, and I mean, they made it to the World. They made it to the last World Cup. Was it 2018 World Cup? I
Yes,
think it was
yes. In
2018.
was it in Russia?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait, I think they made it to the. Did he even make it out of group stages?
No. I think
Yeah.
Argentina. You know, we needed to win actually, but I think the last matchup with Argentina, I think they beat us 2-1 or thereabouts. Yeah, Argentina, because of Argentina, we got knocked out.
The beauty of sport, honestly, you just don't know.
That's
I never thought I'd see England as a proper football team again, which you might find ridiculous because the players that England have had, you know, over the years. But you know, now suddenly you half expect them to get to a semi-final. You know, so yeah, you just don't know. But I hear what you're saying, Dean. You're being realistic.
Yeah. I'd love to have. I know you're English fan, but you know, I hope you're right that Ireland make it to the World Cup. But you never know. It depends who we get.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously, you know, there's supposedly the siblings of the Glazer family. Not sure whether you know much on this because the Glazers just mess all our heads up. Let's be real here. Is it true that some of the siblings of the Glazer family are a bit uncertain of the sale? Like, you know, is it second thoughts?
Well, that's kind of what I said before. Like, I think there's a bit of indecision because if you imagine what I do know is six siblings, and you know, any sort of major decision about United has to be kind of signed off by them all, and they all have their own lawyers, their own sort of advisors within that. Yes, so and they've all got the different. You know, you try and decide anything by six when you need six people. It's all, you know, it's going to be lengthy and protracted and takes time and all the rest of it. But I just think the fact that the you know, they announced, when was it? It was during the World Cup, so it was December, was it? You know, the fact that they announced
November.
Yeah.
Sorry, November. Yeah. That they wanted to sell. They didn't just wake up that day and decide to do that. That would have taken ages to come to that point. So, yeah, listen, they'll be, you know, I don't know this for sure, but I can guess that the indecision is probably to do with the fact that, wait a minute, he looks quite decent, Ten Hag. You know, and wait a minute, we just won a trophy, and what does this actually mean? Is it better for me, you know, Glazer sibling A, to sort of hold on to my share for another, you know, 2 years? I don't know. So, but it comes out of money, right? If that happens, and the Sheikh Jassim says, okay, here's an extra, whatever it be, you know, a few millions, they'll sell, won't they? I mean, one thing I can tell you though, right? And again, you know, this may change, is that just because they've got a lot of money, they're not going to pay over the odds from what I'm told. I've been told that 2 or 3 sort of different entities who sort of know what's going on. You know, they're not going to just sort of say, all right, it's 50 billion or whatever it might be, you know, 10 billion. But I think there is a sweet spot between what the Glazers want and what the Qataris will pay. You know, there'll be some sort of meeting ground.
Yeah, I think they want like 6 billion for the club, the Glazers.
Yeah.
And I seen something like, you know, Qatar aren't gonna, you know, they're not gonna, what's it, overbuy, I think the word is.
Overpay, yeah.
Overpay, yeah, there we go. And I mean, do you reckon Qatar, you know, I think they offer like 4 or 5 billion for the club, but do you reckon they would offer more?
Listen, as I understand it, it was that both of them, this is Qatar and Sir Jim, I've offered no more than 4.5, and I think each might go as high as 5.5 in the end. But you've got to understand as well that you never offer what you're prepared to pay at the start, right? So if I've got 5.5 billion in my back pocket, you know, walking around my village here, and I want to buy, you know, United, I'm not going to, and I'm prepared to pay 5.5. I'm not going to offer 5.5 at the start, because how it works, the seller automatically expects you to go in lower. You know, that's just how. Now I've done it sort of when I've spent time abroad, and you sort of want to buy something off a market stall. There's a price, and then there's the price, isn't there? You know what I mean? It's like, right, okay, what's your real price? And you start haggling. That's what it's all about. And what my technique is to actually go ridiculously low when that happens. So then the seller knows that I know that I'm going to haggle, that I'm not completely silly, you know. So say it's offered 50 quid, I might offer £1. That sounds ridiculous. Obviously, I don't expect it to, but you know. And so you know what I mean. And these people are sort of far more used to these sort of deals than I am, obviously. So I do, you know, I don't expect this to go away from Qatar. No, I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, they also said something. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not sure who said it because there's a lot of news about Qatar and the Glazers these days. Maybe it was yourself. I'm not sure. That they wouldn't have tried to buy the club if they didn't think it was going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that kind of gives me confidence. But I mean,
Sure.
again, like obviously we have Arnold, Morta, and the rest of the other board. If the Glazers leave, do you reckon they could follow them? Because again, many fans don't really.
Sorry, say that again. Who could follow them? I didn't hear who you mean. Who?
Could
Sorry?
John Morta, Richard Arnold, the board. Could the rest of the
Listen,
the rest could the rest of the circus follow them?
Listen, if you buy something, it's very rare that you retain all the sort of, because you've got your own people, right? So I would, again, maybe one or two. I mean, I think the one person that they will retain is obviously Ten Hag. You'd have to be absolutely ridiculously lacking any sort of sense.
You get pretty. We want Qatar out or something like that.
The Tuchel thing, what was that all about?
Yeah.
Okay, he didn't get on with him, but he won the Champions League. He obviously knows what he's doing, right? Yeah. But I don't think that will happen. But yeah, I mean, I haven't got any hard info on this, but just speaking generally, again, it wouldn't surprise me if Arnold left. I personally don't think John Mercer's done that bad a job because he recruited Ten Hag, and I think you have to give the guy credit for that. That's his job. That's what he's in charge of. I think there may well be a new board, a new executive, if you could call it that. But let's wait and see. It'd be very interesting because the thing about this debt that you've got still, which is basically the same amount as what was loaded on the club when it's bought. This half a billion is. Imagine it's not even that. Oh, if that didn't exist, that $500 million could be spent on players, but it could. But it's actually the servicing of it, right? The interest that you have to pay. You know what I mean? All that money's been. Does in one way. It does show again how big a club United are. That despite having that debt, you still have been able to spend all the money you have on transfers and won. Is it now 4 trophies since Ferguson left? Any other club, that'd be a success, right? 4 trophies in 11 years, which is what that's right, isn't it? It's a Europa League, FA Cup,
Carabao Cup, and then Carabao Cup again. Yeah, we won a Community Shield as well. I'm not sure whether that counts as a trophy.
I don't really count it, but you can if you like. But 4 trophies in 11 years is pretty decent considering you've got all these problems, the money thing. So imagine without that. So I mean, it's as I say, I'm not a fan of United, but I can completely understand why. Basically, most fans, it seems, want them out, and I think I'll put it away around. I'm surprised you're allowed to legally buy a club the way in which your club was bought.
I know, but I mean, it's hard to know. Like, I mean, if you were looking at like the people who could buy me United, so like Ratcliffe and Qatar, like obviously you're not a United fan, but like who would you think would be the best option? Like Qatar obviously gave an offer.
It's a no-brainer for me. It's got to be Ratcliffe because he hasn't. I'm not saying he's a perfect human being, but he hasn't got this record of human rights. But listen, I'm not a fan, and it is more subtle than that. But for in terms of fans having their own point. But for me, it's I couldn't get behind. I'll put it this way, right? I'm not asking you two all to agree with this. Everyone has their own point of view. But my son, I mentioned before, he's 11, basically off his own back, not with me prompting him. And I was proud of him. Sort of said, I don't really want them to buy it because of the he's a kid. He's 11. He's going to be 12. Sort of in August, and I think that's right. I mean, sorry to say that to all the fans who want all the money, and I respect that. They're fans. That's up to them. I'm not trying to say they have to think how I do. You know what I'm getting at? Everyone's got to land their own view. But for me, it's a no-brainer. Of the two, it'd be to Jim. I'm not saying he's a perfect human being, but I don't think he's anything near, as far as I know, kind of what these people sort of how they rule their country.
Yeah, if I'm to add to what you said, I think it's a two-sided, issue or point to note, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Like he said, Ratcliffe is not perfect. The same way, Jassin, Qatar is not perfect. But if you look at it this way, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, there was the report some weeks or months ago where he was going to get the backing from Wall Street, if you know what I mean. Like he's gonna get the financial backing,
Yeah.
to up his bid. But as a United fan and as every other United fans, I think the last thing we want to do is, to get another owner who will purchase the club based on debt, if you know what I mean. Like getting another debt on the club, which of course we know this the sad story. The money is coming into the club, the Glazers taking out dividends and all of that.
Yeah.
So I think that's, in my opinion, I think that's the big question mark that we may have as far as Sir Jim Ratcliffe is concerned, because he has not told us, maybe how he's gonna manage that situation. Okay, what happens after you get the backing from these financial powerhouse? How do you settle the debt? How do you even
I
clear?
hear you.
How do you even clear the existing debt that is in the club? Unlike the Qataris, which we know, obviously he has stipulated his plans. He has told us his plans, how he intends to clear. He has given us the assurance that he's going to clear the existing debt, and of course do some kind of renovation and some upgrades in terms of the stadiums, the training grounds, and some other aspect of the club. That's, in my opinion, that excites Manchester United fans. But there's a big but. It's not about money. It's not all about money. We can actually see what is happening at Chelsea right now. In spite of all the money spent, the club is actually in a very difficult situation right now. So I think it's something we need to critically analyze to come out with a conclusion that, okay, this is the favorite. But as far as I'm concerned, based on the human rights problems and the problems, the negatives we may have against the Qataris, I personally think they may be the best option, in my opinion. If we put the human rights problems and all, because we wouldn't want to be cajoled as fans based on the debt. I think the Glazers have plunged us into about 700 or 800 million pounds debt. So how do we clear that debt, existing debt? That is the problem. And Sir Jim Ratcliffe coming into the club, we don't know how he's going to clear it, or if he's going to clear the debt. And he's still going to get borrowed money to purchase Manchester United from a big financial powerhouse. So that's a big problem. So how do we rectify this same problem? So it will be a Glazer 2.0, in my opinion, if you know what I mean.
I hear you, but there is a bit of a joke going around that, and this is sort of United fans thought they couldn't get any worse owners than the Glazers. Then the Qataris turn up with this awful human rights record. Now, again, everyone's different, but I've got a daughter, right? She's 9 years old. Just on that level alone, or using, how they sort of treat women there. Sorry, end of story. But that's just my opinion. Yeah, I completely respect. Everyone's got a different opinion. That's up to them. That's absolutely up to them. But because I was asked, that's my opinion. It's no contest, really. Anyway, that's just me.
Michael, have you got any questions for Jamie? I have literally one or two more. Anything you want to ask him?
Yeah. Who would he reckon we get? That's a striker in the summer, because obviously there are some sections of United fans, they want Harry Kane, some are like Osimhen, some are like Vlahovic. So who will you reckon we get as a perfect traditional 9?
Yeah, I think that Kane is a very big favourite, sort of with regard to how Erik likes to play. He's obviously, he's going to end up being England's record goal scorer. He's already Spurs' record goal scorer. He's not just a striker; he can play creatively. I can remember years ago, he must have just been first starting out. You played Tottenham. It was the very first game of the season. I can't remember if it was Van Gaal. It was at your place. And I couldn't believe how good a footballer he was off the ball, Kane. He was just, he'd scored a few goals by then, but he wasn't the Harry Kane now. And I was like, blooming heck, he's actually as good as a sort of creative player. So he's coming towards the end of a contract, right, Kane, isn't he? He's got like a year or so left.
Yeah.
Maybe 2. But the point is, he's up for renewal. He's got a decision to make, Kane. As I said earlier, if you're United, you go there, you can pay him far more than Spurs are doing it and would do, because United are basically the best payers in our league. I'm pretty sure of that. De Gea's on massive money. Pogba was. Anyway, so I think And if you ask it slightly differently, that would be my choice, actually, because of everything I said. He's England captain. He knows the Premier League. He scores hatfuls of goals. He's never relied on pace. So you get like, he's got probably 4 or 5 years left. You know what I mean? So you get a really, really... How much would he cost? That's a very good question. I think...
Yeah.
I can't, when he was going to go to City, I can't remember how much they turned down there. But, Spurs did. But I think... It was over 100 million, I think. Then what was that? 2 years ago, 2 summers ago. So yeah, that he would be my choice, and I would say Ten Hag would probably. Again, I don't know hard info on this, but I'd be surprised if Ten Hag's not thinking, yeah, let's go for him. Yeah, I mean, let's wait and see if you can get him in and a central midfielder. I go again, Rice. I think the mistake Solskjaer made was, Ronaldo came in that summer, not Rice. Probably for the best of the long run if you're a fan of United because you ended up with Ten Hag. But, if you get Rice and Kane in, that's a seriously frightening good team then. Squad.
Yeah.
As well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are looking at Osimhen as well. Few about Vlahovic. And people are looking at Harry Kane. Most people are looking at Harry Kane saying he's Premier League experience. Like, he's literally what probably United need. You spoke about midfielders. Supposing Ten Hag, he wants to go back in for De Jong, and he's also looking at Mohamed Kudus from Ajax. I think he plays for Ajax, and Jude Bellingham. Those three, who could you see coming to us? Because De Jong,
I think De Jong.
Yeah.
I'll put it away. I think I think Ten Hag really likes him. He didn't spend all summer last year, going for him without obviously that fact. And I've seen a bit of him. I covered the Netherlands, actually, in the last Euros. I was based in Amsterdam, and I saw him then in the flesh a few times. A good player. I think alongside Casemiro, Eriksen, but Bellingham, I don't know that, again, actually, if you asked me to choose, it'd be Bellingham, because I think, what is he, 19? Imagine him.
Yeah, 18, 19.
Yes, 19. Yes.
So, you look at 10, 12, 13, 14 years, if you're happy at your place. So, yeah, I mean, that'd be a cracking summer. You spent a record last summer, 220 million. The information always is that there's money to spend. This is people like me report on the club. Over 100 million each summer. And it usually gets up towards 150. There have been some lesser ones. So, but that's really only 1.5 top players, isn't it? 150. But if you broke the bank, if you took the budget you did spend last year, let's be honest, if the Qataris come in, for example, I think that money would be there. Why would you not go and get Kane and Bellingham, and then you'd be laughing? You win everything, including the World Cup, even though you're only a club, not a country.
yeah, that's it. And thing is about United, we like to overspend. But I mean, just one quick thing. Just, I'm not sure about you, Michael, but do you reckon De Jong not coming to us maybe was a good thing because we brought in Casemiro, and do you reckon, especially you, Jamie, De Jong could do the exact same job as what Casemiro's doing?
No, I think he's more creative. So I think he's like another Eriksen, if you like. He sits a lot, and that's why I like Rice though, because I think Rice can do both. He's more creative maybe than his role for. This is maybe not the best sample, but I liked it. Right, West Ham played Stockport, which is really near where I live, in a cup competition. I think it was 2 years ago during lockdown, and I went and did it for the paper. It was a rainy night, filthy night here near me, Stockport, and he was just phenomenal. Now again, Stockport aren't a Premier League team, but I just thought, wow, in the flesh, especially at a ground like that, where you're a lot closer, you really see what a player like that does. So that's why I like Rice. He could play as a sort of another Casemiro, if you like, a sort of holding creative player, but also a dynamic. But De Jong alongside Casemiro would work, in my sort of humble opinion, because he's a silky player. He's a nice player.
Yeah, I would love to see that, and I think we need especially another defender as well, and a right back. I mean, the way Wan-Bissaka and Delo are going, especially Wan-Bissaka's form, Ten Hag might keep that away. But like, it's on your. Have you heard, any other positions on the United squad that might be improved?
Well, I think centre-back's interesting for you, for your club, because obviously Martinez and Varane are amazing, really good.
Yeah.
And then you've got like this situation where Luke Shaw actually is third choice. Obviously his first choice left-back, but his third choice centre-back, and a good player there. So then you sort of think, well, wait a minute. Lindelof is probably a good squad player. Maguire too, and he obviously, he got picked yesterday.
I think he'll sell Maguire. I think he'd
That's
be
what I
gone
was
this
going to
summer.
say. Yeah, would he, Maguire himself, want to stay there? Because the writings, he's he's sort of fourth or fifth choice, really. So,
well, we can play Casemiro there as well. John, we played him there.
Yeah.
So
maybe another centre back, but I think the full backs, both sides, are all right. I think Wan-Bissaka for me is good enough to be first choice Manchester United. That's just my opinion. Dalot probably vying for with him. He's sort of, but not quite. Then Luke Shaw. Luke Shaw's one of my favourite footballers ever. I just think he's just he's a bit like Ashley Cole. He's almost like a sort of how can I say it? Like a sort of fantasy footballer at left back. He can dribble. He can he's a really good defender. His touch is unbelievable. Again, when you see him close up, his touch is like top class. So I think the fullbacks are all right. But so I think it's striker and centre midfield.
Yeah, I mean, I do like Luke Shaw, and again, even centre back. I think the first time we played him there, centre back.
Yeah, left centre back.
Yeah, I'm not sure what game.
He's played there for England as well, hasn't he? So you know what I mean. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I like about Luke Shaw, he doesn't run around the pitch saying, "Oh, do you see what I've done?" Like Luke Shaw, in the final on the weekend when he whipped when the free kick into Casemiro, Luke Shaw was just like, I done what was asked. He doesn't go around going all over. You know what I mean?
I interviewed him once at length at Carrington at United training ground, and a nice guy. That was when was that? It was under Mourinho, so it's a few years ago now. But he's a cool customer. Right, remember, he's come through. I was at that game, the one at PSV. He's had a horrific double leg break. It was awful, right?
Yeah,
it was probably, how can I say, it's probably more serious than people sort of know with regard to.
He still has a scar. Actually,
well, yeah, he's come through Mourinho, basically. Let's say not being the most positive manager of him, he's come through that, and he's now England's first choice, and he's a good player. He's a proper, good player.
Yes. And one question I actually did want to ask, which someone asked in the comments: what do you see happen with the goalkeeper situation? I mean,
I think De Gea is sort of another success story under Ten Hag, isn't he? He's never been the best commanding the air, and he does have a mistake in him. Like there's one this season where I think the ball went through his legs at the near post. Again, I can't remember the game, but it was just like, what are you doing, David? But I think at the moment you're always going to get him with what I just described. That's kind of he's an unbelievable shot stopper. He saved you last night. Who ran through, and was it Antonio, for example?
Yeah, Antonio.
He might have done that in the final as well. There were moments where the game could slip away, and so he's doing again what you say about Shaw. He's doing what he should do. So I think he will stay. I think he'll sign a new contract.
He saved us a lot last night.
Exactly, and he does. So I think Dean Henderson, I don't know whether he'll come back and compete with me. Solskjaer gave him a chance, if you remember that lockdown season when he ended up finishing second, and he kind of messed it up, didn't he?
Yeah, I think kind of Dean Henderson. Sorry, person.
Sorry,
I didn't mean to interrupt you there. What were you saying about Dean Henderson?
Yeah. Just that he got a chance under Solskjaer in the lockdown season when you finished second, and he sort of messed it up a bit. You know what I mean? He dropped De Gea for him, and he sort of threw a few in. I don't mind him as a second choice, but I don't think he'll overtake De Gea at the moment. What I'm trying to say is I don't know whether Henderson will put up with that, whether he want to be a number two.
I think he did an interview with Talk Sports about talking about, so I think he kind of burnt his bridges there. And I including me, I don't even want the back, and I think he's out for a good while. He's out with injury, so it's kind of karma came back to bite him, but that could just be me. Well, Michael, anything else for Jamie, or are we all good?
I think we're all good for now. Okay. I think he has said much. Yeah.
And Jamie, anything else that us United fans need to know?
I think just that you probably know this already, but I think you can be assured that this guy Ten Hag, he isn't satisfied until he's not. No. He's only satisfied if he's not satisfied with the team. So and that starts with him. I think one of the best things he did this season was when you lost at Brentford 4-0 and he was furious. What does he do? He pulls the ball in the next day, and makes them run the amount of kilometers. But he did it too. With them, right? Yeah. And that was clever, right? That's saying if you're a player, you've just been spanked 4-0, you're not feeling great, you've been pulled in on a day off, been made to do that. But if the manager then turns around and says, "Yeah, I'm as much as fault as you, and I'm actually going to do it with you. You got to say, wow, this guy is sort of second to none. He's walking to Manchester United. Let's get it right. Is a really difficult thing. I don't care who you are, right? What manager you are, you manage that club. I don't know. It's a different beast, you know. And he's look, you know, he's just walked in there and he's just like cool, isn't he? So if you're a United fan, obviously everyone is anyway like this. If you're a United fan, you know, happy, but I'd be really happy because you've got a a bit of a genius in there, I think.
Yeah, I take it you've been to a few of Ten Hag's press conferences, or
everyone within region.
Yeah, I mean, oh really? So you be at the press conference for the game on Sunday? Like, obviously, would that be on Friday?
It's actually today.
Is it today? So you be?
Yeah, but I'm off today. It's usually on a Friday, but I always take Thursdays off. But yeah, I'll you know.
So you would have been at the one on when did we do it?
I was
Monday, Tuesday. Yeah. What did he like? Like, does he bring a good vibe about him? Like, he seems like he can have, like, you know, even though he looks serious and he looks like, you know, even when we're 2-3-0 up, he's still like, he's like, I'm not happy. Like, even after games, like, yeah, we won, but you know, the Leicester game when he beat from 3-0, he kind of like, yeah, but the first half we were poor. So, like, does he bring a good?
Yeah. He walked in on Tuesday. Obviously, you've just won the Carabao Cup, so he's going to be happy. But he walks in. Yeah. He usually walks in like he's got a smile on his face. He says hello. He's a nice guy. You know, he's a really, really intriguing mix of, as you maybe were sort of saying, he could be hard-edged and ruthless, but not in a nasty way for the good of the team. Yeah. But he's also, in my experience, you know, I was on tour last summer when they went to Thailand and Australia, and we had like what we call a sit down with him, you know, sort of interviewing the sort of daily newspaper correspondence for the club, which I'm one, obviously. And he comes in and, you know, sort of spend, I don't know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes with him. But you get a little bit of a sense that in that situation where you're all sort of just sat around a table with him, he's a nice guy. He's a clever man. He's a very good manager. He knows how to deal with the press.
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah, he's an intelligent man. He's a smart guy.
Yeah. Would you be were you at the one? You were at Wembley, weren't you, on Sunday?
Yeah.
So, were you there for the post match?
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, he left the trophy on the.
I was sitting on the front row, and you know, he walks off without, and he's reminded. But did you get what he said? He said something like, "Well, we've already got this. I've already got this one, or we've already got this one. It's time for the next one."
Yeah. As fans, like, we love that. Like he just. Absolutely. And like, one thing about him, like, I mean, he's not he's not stupid. Like, his press conferences, he doesn't let too much out. Like, you know, he keeps things to himself, and like, you know, he's not going to turn around and say, "Oh yeah, we won the Carabao Cup." You know, what this, what that. He's like, you know,
it's a smart
game. Yeah, exactly. That's what we love. The players are probably like, "Oh God, how could you just can't please this man?" But we love it as fans. Do you know what I mean? Like, we love it as fans.
It's not necessarily about you can't please this man. What I personally think is like that monster mentality and not settling for less. I think that's what Erik ten Hag is trying to inculcate in in the players and the fans at large, to let us know that we can't settle for less, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
for decades since Alex Ferguson retired, I don't think we've had this elite mentality, elite coach, you know, in the club. So kudos to Erik ten Hag. And as Huddersfield Town TV said, Erik ten Hag is a genius, and he's really, really a genius.
And don't worry, Jamie, we won't clip you on this one, Jamie, but do you reckon Ten Hag will get us back to the glory days?
I think so, yeah. I'd be surprised if not. I mean, I think you kind of not there already, because I think you have to win the title really for that to have happened, you know, the Premier League. But you can't do better than winning the first trophy that he, you know, available, which is the Carabao Cup. You know, it was the first one available since he came in, so that's a very good start. So yeah, I you know, who knows in sport, but I think City, Liverpool, Arsenal looking at United, stroke him, especially him, thinking, crumbs, this guy, how good is he? You know what I mean, how good is he? Let's wait and see.
I think Pep Guardiola was talking about something the other day. But he also said, you know, something about spending money. I mean, the thing is, some fans are like, you know, going through Instagram and all that social media stuff last night. Some fans were like, yeah, Manchester United aren't to be messed about with. Like, this is opposition fans, like, you know, banter club last season to serious club. Like, I mean, They're like, again, the opposition fans like Manchester United are back, and some United fans are going, hold on a second now, give it time. Like that, so and then United lose the game. You're like, you said, Man United were back. You never said we were back. You said, not us. Yeah. So yeah. I think that kind of concludes the show. Jamie, you're an absolute legend. I really appreciate you coming on.
Can I just ask a favour? If I send you the link to my book, if people are interested, they just click the link and have a look, please. Is that okay? You can put it on your comments.
The link's already in the description.
Okay. Quality. Thank you very much.
The link's already there. So if you want to follow Jamie as well on Twitter, Instagram.
Again, you send it to me too. Probably I can. On my own channel, I can,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And I'll send it to you guys in the private bit.
Yeah, and I'll throw it up on the on our Instagram as well.
Thank you. And listen, thanks ever so much for asking me on. It's been very enjoyable.
Yeah,
as I always say to my son, who's obviously a fan, up the Reds.
Yeah, that's it. And Jamie, we hope to have you on again soon as well. It'd be nice to have you back on.
Thank you.
Nice
to meet you both, Michael, Dean. Really nice. And hello, everyone out there. Keep smiling out there.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, as I said, Michael as well, thanks for coming on as well. We've been looking forward to this show since we organised it. As soon as I told Michael Jamie Jackson's coming on, he was like, get me on there, so I couldn't say no.
Thank you, Michael. Same in reverse. What do you?
Yeah. Everyone wants to talk to Jamie. But Jamie, as I said, we hope to have you on sometime again soon.
Definitely.
Thanks everybody for watching. And again, if you want to buy Jamie's new book, I actually put the link in the comments there as well, and it's also in the description. And follow Jamie. And again, literally, if you want to, follow Jamie, go into the links to his socials in the description, and most importantly, get the book. And it'd be interesting to read. Might actually get it myself now. But thanks everybody for watching, and be back tomorrow for the preview, and we'll speak to you all on the next one. Have a good one.
Thank you.